Hello everyone. Welcome to my podcast for women who want to build a successful career or business through unlocking their unique value. Just a quick note for everyone who's listening, please follow me on Substack so you can get updates about my fresh content. Do please comment on my episodes as I'd love to hear back from all of you. My guest of today's episode is a wonderful lady who is a founder, CEO, and head psychologist of AntiLoneliness, a company offering mental health services in the Netherlands and also worldwide. She is also a trainer, a perfectionism expert, and a mental health ambassador, promoting inner peace, mental strength, and healthy relationships with others and with ourselves. Through AntiLoneliness and her team of psychologists, she offers individual, couples, or group sessions to those who struggle with anxiety, depression, trauma, grief, burnout, loneliness, relationship issues, and transition or change in life. She lives like me in the Netherlands, but originally she is from Greece. We have known each other for a while, but this is the first time we are working on a project together. Please welcome Vassia Sarantopoulou. Hi, Vassia. How are you? Welcome to this podcast.
Hi, Luba. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm sorry for making your life difficult with my last name. I didn't choose it.
Thank you. It's great to have you.
Yes.
And you are a professionally trained psychologist with a number of diplomas, and you're also an expert in several topics where you have lots of experience and knowledge. You position yourself as an expert who helps burned out perfectionists turn into rested achievers. And I personally love this mission statement. And this is exactly why I wanted to talk to you about perfectionism. Tell me, why did you choose this topic to focus on?
First of all, let me tell you about my experience outside of me. First of all, I noticed from all the clients that I would see all these years that I'm working and supporting them through anxiety and depression and burnout recovery, I would see that there's something in common. And that common thing was the perfectionistic mindset. Everybody was carrying these negative thoughts of I am not enough, I should have done more, I should have gone faster, why I'm so late. This demanding, but at the same time also punitive mindset of not being enough, and all the things that we have done so far are not important and they are wrong, they are done in the wrong way. So I saw this common thread with this population, and I realized that perfectionism needs a place out there where we are actually busting the myth about perfectionism. Because I put these 4 words on the title: I help burned out perfectionists become rested achievers. Because people believe that perfectionism leads to achieving and success. But this is a myth, because usually perfectionism leads to anxiety, depression, and burnout. It leads to exhaustion. It deprives us of any a real connection in our lives, because we're only keeping this facade of perfection, and we're not becoming our true selves, our authentic selves. It deprives us of the joy in our lives, because a perfectionist would actually dismiss the good things in their lives because they think that they're not enough. So because of all this deprivation, we needed to talk about perfectionism, how it's not what we think it is.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you will tell us more about what is perfectionism, how to recognize.
Absolutely, yeah. I said, because you asked me about why this topic, and I said, yes, the external experience is because I've met it many times in my practice, but because I'm also a perfectionist. So it's also coming from a personal experience. I've been there. I've seen what it means. I've seen the damage that it caused also in my life, and how I believed that I was doing things right, but actually it was not the same way. So being a recovered perfectionist, I am here and I'm like, okay, let me tell you what I changed so that you can change it and you can actually find success, but in a different way, through a different path.
Great. And why do you think this topic, and also from your perspective, why did this topic come out and became so important now? I also have an opinion about this, but I'm really curious to hear first what you think. Why is it now so relevant to, increase awareness about this, to help people deal with it? Why now?
Because I think now we discover the roots of these mental health disorders that we are struggling with the last decades. So we know already, the huge numbers of anxiety and depression and all this. For years, we were talking about dealing with them through medication, but then also this doesn't help. So now we are going deeper and we are exploring and discovering that these disorders, they also have the roots, not only on our past experience, but also on the mindset that we have created, and we sustain these disorders, these, struggles, mental health struggles. So we now discover that the fact that we are all struggling with anxiety, stress, and depression and burnout during the last decade, to say so, maybe it has a connection with the mindset that we were raised in the previous, in our childhood. The previous generation was a generation that indeed they had to struggle. They didn't, of course, know anything about mental health. And I'm talking about our fathers and our grandfathers, that generation. They didn't know anything about mental health. And that was a generation that struggled with survival. Back then, they were worse. There was poverty. There were not enough opportunities. So it made perfect sense, pun intended, why they wanted to be perfect, to be the best, because the positions or the opportunities were only for some people. So they came out of this survival mode, and of course they had to adjust with these bare opportunities that they were in their lives. But that's not the case with us, because we have so many opportunities, and also we're not on a survival level. We are actually on an upper level where we are caring more about our lifestyle. We are taking care of our mental health. We can create, we have more control over our lives and what kind of lives we want to create. So now we discover that we are beating ourselves up because we are not enough, as if we are going to lose, we are going to face disasters, while this is not the case. We're going to be okay, and we know how to grow and we know how to succeed. But the worst case scenarios and the panic that we're carrying with us, it's not necessary anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And for me personally, why perfectionism came out to the surface is that in the last 2 years, especially in the times of the pandemic and lockdown, this problem, I think, it was always there. Like you're saying, we were dealing with this for many, many decades, for many generations. But in the times of the pandemic, this was so much exposed because we were under tremendous pressure at work, in life, everywhere, on all levels in our society, that mental health in general became a much more important topic for people. Yes. And it exposed a lot of problems that we've had before, and really we were forced to realize that our mental models were so ineffective or so counterproductive and are actually hurting us, that we have to start looking at them. We have to rethink the way we operate, because, and a lot of things are not the external circumstances, but are actually internal problems, right? This is where I started sort of looking more into myself, realizing, what am I doing wrong? How can I help myself? And yes, you're right. You're saying right things, that we have a lot of resources these days. We are not in the survival mode. So we can actually have a lot of influence on how we operate, how I think, what I do in my daily life, right? And what do I need to do differently? But this came to me very strong in the times of the pandemic. That's why I ask you this question. Maybe you also, as a professional, noticed that people came to you with these problems, your clients, in the times when they were dealing with very high level of stress and anxiety, because that was the time when you were probably over flooded with clients and people, asking for help.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think that the reason that this happened during the pandemic is that one thing was the social isolation. Being around people brings comfort, inner peace in our life, the connection. The connection is something we all need. We're social beings. And then the fact that we were not having opportunities to meet people, then that already costed in our lives. The second thing is that just because we were isolated, we had to spend a lot of time with ourselves. Before, we could distract ourselves. We could go, to the office. We could meet people. We could just go shopping. We could distract ourselves with other coping mechanisms rather than being with ourselves and our needs and our fears and worries and vulnerabilities. But just because we didn't have that opportunity during the pandemic, all the things that we were stacking inside us, they just came to the surface and we didn't know what to do. I don't know. I cannot go out shopping now. I cannot go out to a restaurant. I cannot meet people. I cannot distract myself. I'm here with my ghosts, with my fears, with my insecurities. What am I going to do with them? So many people reached out to therapy because they wanted to actually have a better relationship with themselves first. And find more healthy ways to deal with these anxieties.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And so, what is perfectionism as a phenomenon? What is that? Maybe you can describe it in a way that would be possible for people to recognize the symptoms and become aware. Do I have it? Am I a perfectionist or not? What is it? How would you describe it?
Well, let me start with saying what is not. Perfectionism is not being perfect. If you think that somebody is a perfectionist because they are delivering perfect results all the time, that's not the case. Maybe they're delivering perfect results for other reasons, but that's not what we mean. It's not somebody who is obsessed with order, colors, whatever. No, that's not what we mean with perfectionism. I've met a lot of perfectionists, because you think that maybe perfection is somebody who's perfect. I've met a lot of perfectionists who are very messy, who are struggling with failure, who are procrastinating a lot. So let's dissolve that. Perfectionism doesn't mean perfection. Perfectionism is a cluster of behaviors, coping mechanisms, feelings, thoughts that stem from the shame that I am not enough. And because I feel deep inside me that I am not enough, I push myself more. I beat myself every time I make a mistake. I am afraid of making mistakes. I am trying to keep myself away from the spotlight or away from taking risks because I am afraid of making mistakes. And I never enjoy even the moments that I grow in my life, or at least it doesn't stay with me, because I believe so what? So a perfectionist is somebody who will set unrealistically high expectations. They're driven by goals and results. And when they are about to meet a goal, you think that maybe they will feel happy at that moment. Yes, they will temporarily, but they will not fully enjoy it because they have already set the next goal. So again, I'm not enough. I could have done more. And then they succeed. And then again, I'm not enough because there's more to do. I haven't finished my journey. So they think that all this is just a constant running that we need to do in order to achieve something. And there's a lot of conditions in their life. They always say, like, if I do that, then I will be happy. So they will say, if they're, for example, a business owner, if I have 10 customers, then I will be happy, or when I have 10 customers. And they do have 10 customers eventually, but then they don't feel happy because they already put the next goal, which is when I have 20 clients, actually, I will be happy. So you see that the goal is always moving and happiness never comes. So I've never met a perfectionist who's happy. So we're talking about a goal-oriented mindset. We're talking about high expectation, unrealistic expectations. And to give you an example about unrealistic expectations, I remember that I was working with a client who was very ambitious. Every morning, she would wake up and she would start writing in her notebook, in her agenda, the things that she would like to do for the day. However, just because of her unrealistic mindset, she would set so many goals there that they wouldn't fit in one day. And just because of the overwhelm she would feel at 8 o'clock in the morning when she would be writing in her notebook, she couldn't get out of bed and start working before afternoon. She would just be paralyzed there and she couldn't get herself to start working because of the overwhelm of the goals that she set for herself.
Because the goals are actually demotivating her. They're so ambitious, are so unrealistic that they actually do the opposite. They don't motivate you, but they demotivate you, that you feel paralyzed, that, oh gosh, how can I start doing all of this?
Exactly. And that's what's happening with perfectionists. And that's why they are the one and the same person with procrastinators. Just because I am setting a very ambitious, very unrealistic goal, and my eyes are on the goal, I also see the million steps in order that I need to take in order to achieve this goal. And I'm overwhelmed by just the magnitude of these, effort. And because I'm overwhelmed, I procrastinate because I'm not ready yet. I'm going to start tomorrow. This is too difficult. I'm going to wait until I get motivated. I'm going to wait until, the circumstances or the stars will align. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. And this is not about, this doesn't say anything about our skills or about the project. It is only the overwhelm that the perfectionist is causing to themselves.
Yeah. And you said that this comes from the limiting belief that I'm not enough.
Yes.
That in fact, person believes in this statement that I am not enough. And then they start working harder, doing more, thinking that if I do more every time, more and more, then I will be enough. But that actually never happens. So where does this come from, this limiting belief?
This limiting belief comes from, again, childhood experiences where we have been shamed that we are not enough, or where we have been praised for things that are just part of ourselves. So for example, when you have been praised for your grades, as a child, and as children, we make connections that they're not always true, but these are our child mind doing that. So as a child, we made the connection that, oh, my mom is happy because I got good grades. So I get more love when I have good grades. Yep. Okay, I figured a pattern here. I'm going to do that more. So then we connect the acceptance, the connection, the love, the belonging with our performance. And this is the beginning. This is one, let's say, possibility. The other way that can also work when we have highly critical parents. And these parents, they always blame us, they always criticize, they always evaluate. When we come back, from a test, they're like, how did you go? Why a B and not an A? Why an A and not an A plus? You could have done more. And they always point out they could have done more. And then they don't actually say anything about the effort. They don't say anything about the fact that we struggled. They also don't say anything about qualities, about our personality. They don't focus on our friends. They don't focus on acts of kindness, for example. So then we learn that what matters in this world is only what's tangible: money, success, grades, whatever, wealth. So that's the possibility, another possibility why this happens.
And so it develops as you grow. It begins in childhood, then year after year, you learn and you reinforce these behaviors. And when you are an adult, this is the only way you see the world and you operate in this world, basically. These are your concepts.
Yeah, because it has a very strong connection with an unmet emotional need. So since I haven't felt acceptance or safety, I'm going to still try the same thing that I tried in my childhood so that I can bring these elements, this unmet need into my life. The same thing can happen now that I said safety. When a child lives in a very unstable environment, either because of their parents or generally. Perfectionism means controlling my environment. So they figured out that if my environment, the place that I live, or the country, or the school that I go, is very unpredictable, very unsafe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my room tidy up every day, perfectly done. I'm going to have very clean clothes. I'm going to have really good grades, because that brings a sense of safety and security in me that my environment cannot provide. So you can see many needs are seem that they can get met through perfectionism, and that's why it's so strong. It's a very strong mindset.
But can you change it? That was my next question. I mean,
yeah,
you work with a lot of them and you can turn them into rested achievers. How does it work? Is it really possible?
It's absolutely possible. It's working. One of the first things that we're doing is we're just exposing perfectionism, because, so you were trying to bring acceptance in your life through perfectionism. Do you feel accepted? Do you feel joy? Do you feel rest? No, I don't. So actually we need to expose that all the things that you're doing do not work anymore. And since you're working with women, I want to tell you an example. There was a lady that I was working many years ago, and she was a very strong perfectionist, very severe case of perfectionism, to a degree that one day she told me that I am working every day. I wake up at 6 o'clock every day so that I can catch up with all the work that I need to do. And I'm working really hard. I'm a perfectionist. I'm way ahead in my yearly goals, in my department, in my job. And at the same time, I want to be perfect at home. So when I come home, I do the laundry, I do the cooking, I prepare the lunch boxes for the next day. I do everything according to, the checklist. But then I notice that when I sit down to play with my little daughter, I don't feel any connection, and my mind is on the things that I haven't finished doing in the kitchen. And that scares me a lot. And that's why she was in therapy. If I have 10 minutes, half an hour to play with my daughter before she goes to bed, and I'm thinking the dishes, or I'm thinking the cooking or the cleaning, and I'm actually bored and I don't want to be with her, and I feel, upset or angry, when she's doing her own whatever fun and play things, that scares me, she said. And then that was the moment when we actually started working on perfection, because she realized that it doesn't work.
Yeah, children are generally are very good triggers, and they really expose your weak spots very quickly. And this is also one of the reasons why parents want to actually start changing, because of the children, because they realize how much impact their behaviors have on their children. And of course, every parent wants the best for their children. So that's a reason why you actually initiate things like therapy, and you start looking into yourself, and that's actually a good thing. But what you mentioned is that indeed perfectionism, it's not isolated to one part of your life, right? You cannot be a perfectionist at work and not a perfectionist at home. It's actually, you're going to be a perfectionist everywhere, which means that the amount of pressure that you're going to put on yourself to be able to stay and perform on all levels of your life, in every role in your life, is incredible. You can't really keep up with it. Nobody can, right? So in the end, and very quickly, you will end up with anxiety, with depression, with exhaustion, burnout, and all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And especially for women again, there's a difficult task that we need to do. We are trying to merge the old values and the new values. The old values that we're carrying from our mothers and grandmothers said that you need to be the perfect mother, you need to be the perfect housewife, you need to have your house super clean, so that if everybody comes for a visit, they would say, oh my God, you must be so proud to have this daughter, this wife, this mother. So we are carrying these old values, but also we like the new values. I want to be ambitious. I want to have a career. I want to be independent. I want to be good at my job. I want to be in leadership positions. So again, perfectionist says, what if we can have all of them? What if I can be the perfect mother, perfect daughter, perfect housewife, and the perfect boss, perfect manager, perfect business owner, whatever, you name it. So instead of actually adjusting our values to what matters to us, we are again perfectionizing it, and we're trying to meet all of them.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring this up, because I have worked for many, many years in large international companies, and I've seen it firsthand that perfectionism at work, as well as in the society and families, is actually quite reinforced, because it is a very good employee who stays late, who works hard, who pays extra attention to some reports and keeps checking it 3 million times. And who wouldn't want to have people like this? These are perfect employees, although the only disadvantage is that they do get burnout and they go on a sick leave. But they are always hardworking. They are achievers. They set high, ambitious goals. And this is what a big company these days is actually expecting from you. So if you work in this environment and everybody else around you is also a perfectionist, you will see that, first of all, you fit in, and that makes you feel good. You are like them as well, very competitive, very driven, very goals oriented. But on the other hand, these behaviors are reinforced, and they will eventually drive you to the exhaustion and burnout. And if you don't realize it, if you're not aware of this trap, you will pay a very high price, I think, with your mental health.
Yes.
That's why I think, to me at least, it explains why the burnout rates are sky high at the moment in the corporate world.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that we are now slowly, not we, the corporate companies actually, they now realize that there's not only one negative in having perfectionistic employees. For example, the fact that you said that they will burn out. That's not the only damage that's happening. What's also happening is when you have somebody who's checking their reports 1,000,000 times, as you said, that's the new thing that we are now seeing. That's not only a problem of this person. This is a problem for the company, because the rest of the team members, they come back and say, I'm sick and tired of sending back and forth this report. We're done with that. This was already corrected good enough in the 5th evaluation or a 5th review. We didn't need another 1,000,000 reviews. Or I remember a man who was working together with me 5 years ago, and he said to me that I need to work not only how to recover from my burnout, but also how to work with my perfections, because they're gonna fire me because I keep the whole team waiting so that I will finish my evaluation. So yes, they struggle themselves with perfectionism, but also the people around them struggle because they're waiting, because the progress goes slowly, because of course the company is indeed affected by perfectionists, and not in a positive way, as they think, oh yeah, we want perfectionists in our company. You don't want perfectionists, actually, because they're going to slow down the progress. If they are not slowing down the progress, then maybe we're talking about healthy perfectionists, not toxic perfectionists.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've seen many situations in the corporate world where your boss is perfectionist, and then it's really difficult to say something against that. And you have to deal with this. But companies usually choose people who are driven and results oriented and ambitious, and those are good things. But very often it could be a person with a perfectionist. So there is a fine line between, and it's maybe difficult to understand who is who. But yeah, for companies, of course, I can understand they want to have very ambitious people who want to grow and perform. But I think I've seen a lot of the extreme side, or the negative side of it, in a way.
Yeah, indeed. I think if we want more people who are on the healthy side of perfectionism, then as not only as the individual who's struggling with perfections, but also as a company, we need to cultivate a more inclusive mindset in regards to failure and mistakes. So if, for example, an employee is making a mistake, or they're taking they have a setback in their growth, if we are focusing only on the numbers and we forget to actually praise the effort, to praise the journey, the lesson learned, then we're sending a message that whatever you've learned through this process, through this project, doesn't matter. I only care about the numbers. And then everybody will go crazy because it's about the numbers. We need to follow the numbers. So we need to cultivate a more compassionate mindset around failure. We need to actually make these examples of failure and embracing it more visible and more explicit. When for example, and that was something that I also discussed in my previous training about perfectionism, when everybody wanted in this training to learn how to not be perfectionists. So I said that if you don't want somebody that says yes all the time, and they set priorities, and they can choose which meetings are important for them, and the other meetings they don't follow, or they send somebody else, or they check the minutes afterwards, then don't praise in front of the meeting somebody who has joined all the meetings, because you're then praising perfectionism again, the toxic perfectionism. If you say, well, welcome, Luba, again, oh my God, you're amazing, you haven't missed one meeting that we have done, then you're actually sending the message to everybody, this is what I like. I like everybody exhausting themselves in being in 1,000,000 meetings, not because they have a position there or they have a role there, but just because you have to show that you are perfect and you can handle everything. So we need to see what kind of messages we send in meetings like this.
Yeah. And what do you think, from your point of view, what should companies do? What initiatives should be in place to make this happen, so that people start embracing failure? They can talk about this, they can change their behaviors. What would you offer them to do?
Well, I think the meetings where we again look only at the numbers are not working. So we need to have the meetings where we express how, everybody's disappointed that we didn't have, the success that we expected. Okay, let's discuss about this. It's okay that everybody shares it without expecting somebody to say only something positive. Let's embrace all kinds of emotion, because perfectionism goes also for our emotions. We perfectionize them, and then we show off only the positive. We are fine, we can do it, no worry, I'm okay. So let's have meetings where we can say, yeah, I'm disappointed, but at the same time, we all are in the same boat here. Let's talk about lessons learned. Yeah, let's talk about what happened. Let's also celebrate the fact that even though we didn't achieve the numbers or the goals, let's celebrate what other things we learned or earned from this experience. We became a better connected team, or we introduced a new member, or we faced a difficulty or a challenge that we haven't faced before. Oh, okay, that was a first and we succeeded. So let's celebrate not only the tangible results again, but also the journey, the growth that we had during that. And that is the mindset shift.
This is a huge and very revolutionary idea, because the whole business world is based on the fact that numbers are important. That's it's super difficult to let go this concept that numbers are not possible, not important. And the second idea is that there is incremental fear of emotions. It is unacceptable at work, in any corporate environment, to talk about emotions, to display emotions, to deal with emotions. It is still a huge taboo, emotions, right? And of course, for women, it's even harder, because we are more emotional than men. We express our emotions, and therefore there are some consequences of that as well. What do you think, from your practitioner point of view, and also from a psychological point of view, what needs to happen in a company culture, that these two things change, that we stop looking at numbers, we start focusing on quality, and we actually embrace emotions, that we acknowledge and accept the fact that we are human, we all have emotions, and we need to learn in the corporate environment, in the work environment, also to deal with those emotions, to express them as well.
Yeah. So it's unrealistic what you're saying, that emotions are unprofessional. This is so unrealistic. We are a big chunk of emotions. We're carrying our emotions all the time, and even if when we suppress our emotions, it definitely comes out in all our lives, all our areas of our lives. Sometimes as a sabotage. We sabotage ourselves because we sabotage our emotions. So it's very unrealistic to say that, okay, before you leave home, just leave your emotions behind and go to work without your emotions. Everybody's feeling, everybody's having, the emotion is the reaction to what is happening in our lives. So when you're saying don't have feelings when you're at work, it's like don't have any reaction. Don't allow your workplace experience to have any impact on you. That's not possible. It's gonna have an impact for sure.
Yeah, that's true. People do have feelings and emotions, and what I'm trying to say is that especially for women, it's very common to suppress indeed their emotion and don't show them at work, because they feel this is inappropriate. It's inappropriate to cry, it's inappropriate, it's unprofessional show other emotions besides the good ones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's very common. And women are very aware of this. So they've learned to suppress these emotions and become like men, very harsh, very, composed, and sort of unemotional, although they are emotional. They have everything inside, but at work, they are behaving, they have a mask on, they are behaving in a way that everybody else is expecting them to behave.
Exactly, yeah. And it doesn't mean that they are doing it well. Men also struggle with that image that they have to fit in, the strong, the confident, the know-it-all, they're keeping it together. They are also struggling with that role. And that's why you see that from one day to another, for example, they get a burnout. One day to another, they have strong psychosomatic symptoms and they go sick, or they have autoimmune diseases, or worst case scenarios, they also take away their lives just from one day to another, and nobody had any clue. Oh, we didn't know about that. We didn't know that they were struggling. So the fact that we have learned to hide it very well, it doesn't mean that it doesn't impact our lives. We are emotional. I don't say that we should just express emotions all day long and without any awareness of the impact they have in our lives. Because of course, the fact that somebody has emotions and expresses their emotions doesn't mean that they're emotionally mature. We need to learn also how to express our emotions with healthy boundaries, with respect, with awareness. We also need to self-regulate, which is different than suppress. We also need to know the language, the lingo of emotions, so that we don't say one feeling, but then we're experiencing another. There's a lot of work to do for sure, but a company who embraces that side of perfectionism, the healthy side of perfectionism, that company knows that the numbers grow faster in that environment. The company that suppresses emotions, that wants everybody to be robots, that focuses only on the numbers, is a company that has employees leaving in a year within their employment, employees that they're struggling with burnout and other mental health issues, very dysfunctional workplace dynamics. So the numbers will work only short term. If we want long-term growth, we know that we have to change our mindset and embrace more of this compassionate, empathetic, holistic model.
Yeah. And do you know any company that maybe you worked with that is doing a good job and that we could sort of learn from, that do take care of their people, that do pay attention to mental health and provide support to their employees?
Well, I see them only for short term when we're doing a coaching program, when we're doing, a training. So I see them for a short term, but I can tell the difference from the interaction that I have with their employees. So I've been to companies that everybody is detached, distracted. They are following the training, but also working at the same time. They cannot even stop for an hour. They're working. They don't share. They don't reflect on themselves. So I've seen that, and I see, like, oh my God, we have a lot of work to do here. But I've also seen other companies, and I don't want to use any names. I don't want to say any names. But I've also worked with companies where the employees, they're using emotional language. They're asking questions. How can I support my team members? I'm a manager, and how can I support my team members when they're struggling with burnout, when they're struggling with a problem? I don't want to be the therapist, but I want to be there for them. So when I hear these questions, I'm like, okay, this is good. This is going really well. Everybody's feeling so accepted. And when you're feeling so accepted, there's only one way. You're going to give your best self. You're going to care for your company. The numbers will come. Even though you don't have the numbers as the first priority, the numbers will come.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What is your advice to perfectionists out there listening to us and everything what you are sharing, I think, is super useful, and I also got a lot of insights from it. But from a practical point of view, if people recognize that they're perfectionists, what do they need to do to turn into rested achievers?
So usually people in the beginning, they have resistance about dropping perfectionism. Like, what do you mean? Am I going to be like a lazy person? I'm going to stagnate. I don't need to care about my growth, about my progress. I don't need to have goals. No, none of this. We are only switching from toxic to healthy perfectionism. Because I say that once a perfectionist, always a perfectionist. So you will still be a perfectionist. You will still want to grow, and that's a fantastic thing you have. Keep it. But also what we're going to do is that we are going to take away the shame. We're going to take away the I'm not enough. We're going to take away the pressure, the stress, the tension in your days, the tension in your body. We're not going to take away this. So you will keep achieving and succeeding, but you will be doing that in a rested position. So what I want to say is that you don't need to drop your perfectionist, your inner perfectionist. You will still be a perfectionist. You don't need to lose the goals that you have. You just need to turn them into healthy and realistic goals. You don't need to change everything about your life. You only need to include yourself in your life, because there was only goals and success there, but you forgot about yourself. You need to include yourself in there, and how everything you achieve will be achieved in joy and pride. I remember one of the people that I interviewed said to me, I don't remember the last time that I felt proud about myself. And that's very strong in perfectionists. They feel guilty a lot, but not proud.
I love it. Your advice is very simple, very practical, and I think very valuable because of that. So thank you, Vassia, for sharing your perspective and your knowledge with us today. Hope this is useful for everyone listening. And I wish you all a very good mental health. If you need any help with your perfectionism, you can reach out to Vassia and her team. I will share the details in my podcast. And have a great day, and till next time.